Hi, Susan here. Okay, today I'm going to be reviewing the Netflix series The Crown costumes for the 4th season, and that's what's next. So I'm a big fan of the Netflix series The Crown, and I am also a big fan of the costumes, especially in the 4th season. I want to review it all, and you know what, guys? I can identify with that time period because I was most active in my business in the 80s and 90s as a young designer. I watched Princess Diana's clothing, and in retrospect, as it was happening and unfolding, and I'm excited to unfold this for you today and get into the mind of Amy Roberts, the actual fashion designer that did the costumes for this series that sort of blossomed in this 4th season. Let's get right to it. So the Crown series is the events from Queen Elizabeth II's reign. And on the 4th season, we are talking and entering with Margaret Thatcher as well as Diana and the wedding. So it's a very, very big series. It's supposed to be about real life events, guys, but obviously there is some creative liberty that has taken place with the series itself. Not going to get into that controversy, but I think that it's really well done. So it spans the time of about 1977 to 1990, which was kind of the height of fashion, of some pretty scary fashion. And like I said, Amy Roberts, the costume designer, did a fantastic job, and I'll explain why in a minute. I'm going to be talking about different characters in the series, but primarily Princess Diana, or Diana before she became a princess. So I'm going to try to go scene by scene with the ones that I felt were significant. And I want to start first by talking about Amy Roberts and her process that she did, that she talks about, and that is that she had mood boards for every single character. She had fabrication that was both vintage and recreated. That was all of those prints and patterns that were very prominent in that time period in the 70s and 80s, even 90s. So all of that was at her fingertips, and it was very, very key and very, very similar to some of the fabrications even that I used myself. So she was right on point with that. What I also liked about Amy Roberts, that's how she addressed this, and they talk about it in some of the documentaries, is that she was really in the mind of the direction of the filmmaking and the direction of the scenes themselves. It wasn't just about duplicating or replicating a particular item, but actually making a point in some of the scenes that were very significant. That, I think, is brilliant, and that makes a great costume designer. Hence, this is one of my bucket lists. I wish one day that I'm able to do costume design for a film or a series. So Netflix, I hope you like this and come get me. Anyways, let's get started. So the first scene is Queen Elizabeth II as she is riding her horse, and it shows the majesty that she has and the authority that she has, and almost like a love affair that she has with all of it, right, guys? It shows her in a very majestic way, and it shows her very comfortable in that element, which I thought was a really great first scene. Then it jumps into the nomination of Margaret Thatcher as the Prime Minister, and Queen Elizabeth II welcoming her as she is nominated. And then there's a scene that shows her with Queen Elizabeth, who was wearing those kind of muted shades still. It was a muted purple, but it was still royal, it was still nice. But then you see Margaret Thatcher wearing this almost brilliant, bright electric blue suit. And it just juxtaposes the two characters, and very, very interesting enough, really shows Margaret Thatcher in a very, very strong light, even though royalty should always be a little bit stronger. I found that very interesting, especially as she does the slow kneel to Queen Elizabeth II, which she was known for. It was a very poignant scene in some of the first scenes of the series. Then we quickly jump into Diana as she meets Charles for the first time, which is very different than in real life, so I'm really not going to talk about it so much. But then Prince Charles was dating Diana's sister, so it shows a picture of Sarah and on the balcony, and she's wearing this kind of florally top, kind of peasanty looking, but still a little crisp. These patterns and designs were very poignant in that period of time and was very so it shows her in more of a relaxed way in that series, in that scene. Then it shows Princess Diana, I think, in more of a very important scene when she meets Charles for the second time, but more of a realistic meeting, wearing this significant overall in this kind of light yellow denim with a floral top as well as a floral sweater. When she wears this sweater, it is very common of what Diana wore before she got married and in her real life as Diana. And I thought this particular scene was very important because Amy Roberts duplicated that particular garment pretty close to the T to real life when Princess Diana actually wore it to a polo match at a later time. She chose to use it for this scene. We go quickly into what Diana was wearing pretty much on a regular basis before she was engaged, with these florally tops, high collar, ruffles, and kind of almost dowdy skirts, right? That were long and didn't show too much of a figure, didn't show too much of authority. She looked innocent and happy and just sort of carefree and naive. And that was what I think they depicted her in those scenes. Quickly to her engagement to Prince Charles, and another garment that was replicated almost identically, that Amy Roberts to the real life garment that Princess Di wore at the interview with as she was engaged. And it shows that blue suit with scallop front of the blazer and no collar, also giving the softness underneath, which is very, very common in that time with those kind of bows and sashes. Then we get to the wedding gown, guys, and she had even the influence, and she also had the cooperation of the actual fashion designers of the wedding gown that Princess Diana wore, and it was depicted almost identically. Guys, I saw her gown in a museum in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, many, many years ago. To see it in person, it doesn't quite even look as big as it was in some of these pictures, but the scale of it, the size of it, the exaggeration of the sleeve, the exaggeration of the collar, the exaggeration of the skirt. I will tell you, I wasn't particularly a fan of the actual dress, but I think it really suited Diana at the time and her personality and what they were trying to depict, I think, at that particular time and era of the monarchy. I remember waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and watching the actual wedding unfolding just months before my own wedding at the time. I had a very sleek design, first idea of my design, and after that it sort of did influence me a little bit, and I found myself becoming a little bit more exaggerated with the sleeve and with the headgear, which I wish I did not do to this day. But anyways, also the pre-engagement or the outfit that she wore for the night before rehearsal was very similar to even something that I was wearing in that time period, with the florally, the softness of it, again with the high collar and the skirt, all in the same. That time period was known for more is better, right? More patterns, more volume, more shapes and layers. So it was pretty much more of. She starts to come into herself, and now we're going to fast forward to the Australian trip where Princess Diana and Prince Charles go to Australia, and there's a young Prince William with them, and she insists on bringing Prince William with them, and it shows her trying to just take authority and enjoy this trip. showing her with the dance scene, which I think is very significant, with the dress that was almost identical to the dress that she did wear in real life. And then it shows also as she's going about in Australia and New Zealand, the kind of muted or the white on white or white on cream ensembles that Prince Charles was wearing, as well as Princess Diana, and with the square necklines, again with the volume on the sleeves, etc. You know, you see her there with Prince William, and she has almost an identical garment as well that was depicted with the large collar. Also with the scenes where she's going around in public on her own, where they were separated in their duties, and it shows some similar outfits that were worn by Princess Diana in real life. The scene of her with the swimmers, that garment was pretty much depicted very, very close to the original. I want to note the different looks of like Margaret Thatcher was wearing and Prince Margaret was wearing, and even Princess Diana started to get into some more of a stronger colors. They were talking about how Princess Margaret was starting to wear a lot of purples and blues and muted shades, and she was just starting to be very unhappy with the way she was looking and her circumstances at large. And Amy Roberts kind of showed those scenes by giving these very bold and kind of dramatic prints in very key elements of the series. I found it very interesting too, because I think in real life, if I can remember correctly, some of the garments were just basically mostly muted and uninteresting at best. But I found that Amy added color to some of the muted outfits, and by giving a sash or bringing a print somewhere, just kind of lifting it up a little bit and making it a little bit more interesting to watch. There's key scenes I think that are very interesting when Prince Charles was, their marriage was on the rocks, and Princess Diana was reaching out and trying to get a hold of her husband, knowing that something might have been up. And it shows her in this kind of beigey print that was hugely popular at that time, but kind of making her washed out and insignificant. The scene was very poignant to me. Then in contrast to that, it shows her when she went on her New York trip looking bolder and more fashionable and more striking and more present. She had garments that, you know, was very big in the time, which were the asymmetrical, anything that was off the shoulder, asymmetrical, bold, large, floral was in. And so key garments like the two-piece ensemble with the brocade was almost identical to the real life one that she wore. Very interesting towards the end of the series, the marriage was on the rocks, and it showed a very key scene where she got a hold of her husband, and then it shows her frustration, and she's dancing and she's practicing her dance, which she loves, and she's wearing these purple tights juxtaposed with Camilla Parker Bowles wearing this dramatic fuchsia dress with Prince Charles on an event or some kind of dinner that they were together, where Diana wasn't involved. It just shows the drama of their life as well as her life, and putting the two together with that purple or that fuchsia color I thought was very, very bold. And then we go to the very end of the series where Princess Diana is already frustrated and feels completely left out, and they have this family photo, and she comes down the stairs with this tuxedo type double-breasted dress, sleeveless dress that is all in black. And you see her in the portrait where she is just off to the side, just completely without her husband and not even in focus. And I found it very interesting that she's wearing black, and I really felt that the black was, in my opinion, used to show it as she is already gone. She's non-existent. She's already out of there. It doesn't show her as present, and it shows her bold, but at the same time gone. So I hope that was interesting to you. This was my take on these particular garments that were in this series, not getting into the nitty-picky of the names of some of these designers or brands, but to show the evolution that Princess Diana is already achieving in this particular series. Can't wait for the next series. She starts to wear a lot of other things like Versace and Chanel and other designers that were more prominent and more and sleeker. And she starts to show that slightly towards the end of this series as we're going into the next series. So I hope that was exciting for you. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this series, and taking apart and understanding how costume design can bring about a feeling and a story and actually accentuate the story even more so by costume design alone, using real life garments and depictions of garments that were worn in real life at different times, as well as significance of the time itself. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I have everything about fashion design on my channel, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.